From NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the pod, an emergency-ish podcast. I think we were probably going to record today anyway, but we held off just in case there's breaking news. And we've got breaking news. Let's start right away. Coquese Washington out as Rutgers women's basketball coach. I'm going to read the statement, Brian, that Keli Zinn said, because I think it's good to start with this. It's a very strong statement. And again, she's stacking up W's. Keli Zinn, I thought this was a no-brainer. And here's her statement. Rutgers women's basketball has a proud and storied history of success, and there is no reason why our program cannot return to its place among the nation's elite. We have invested in women's basketball in many ways, and we compete in the best athletic conference in the country. And we are supported by passionate fans and loyal donors. I am confident we will find the right coach who can elevate this program to where it belongs. I want to thank Coquese for her service to Rutgers and wish her the best. Strong, right? Good statement.
Good statement. About as strong as I think it had to be, and as strong as the statement of firing Coquese was, because there was some thought that maybe she would get similar treatment to Steve Peichel and Greg Schiano, let the NIL or lack thereof give her some breathing room to get one more chance. But the numbers were just so ugly. The amount of losses they've had, the size of the losses, multiple 40-point losses. 13 or 14 double-digit losses and 17 Big Ten losses. It's just you cannot justify bringing that person back on a 2-year deal. She would be a lame duck coach, and even if she got more money in the portal, would someone want to come play for a coach that's on her last legs, and B, has she done enough in the last 2 or 3 years to give you any signal that with a better roster she'd do better? So ultimately, it was the right decision, and it was a decision that sends more than the women's basketball program, for the department. Absolutely. We will not stand for mediocrity. We want to win, and she took the right first step to do so.
Yeah, and the two things about the money part. I've been told that there already was some money in the NIL coffers for this program. Well, she wasn't operating at zero. I don't know if she was operating at the top of the league, certainly, but she was 1-17 with some money. One. And number two, there's this idea that all coaches, we need to give everyone an opportunity with the money. That's the narrative. She hasn't earned this. Steve Peichel ended a 30-year NCAA tournament drought. Greg Schiano's been to 9 bowl games here. This is a little different. Coquese Washington was 50 games under 500 in the Big Ten. This is not a charity. It's not some let's give her some money and try again. No, you got to prove it. You've got to show that you can win. And I kept on coming back to this. And I don't know about you, Brian. I was surprised. The narrative out there was look like they're leaning toward keeping her. And I don't know where that came from. I mean, maybe it came from her. But I was really, really surprised about that everyone seemed to kind of go and sounds like she's coming back. And that just never made sense. How is Keli Zinn? How is President Wynn? How are they going to explain that? And not to us. How are you going to explain that to the people who you are employing in that building? You're saying we have to win, and then, but here's 11-61 in the Big Ten. We're running this back for another year. Didn't make any sense.
No, I think the other part that makes it not make sense, which is when we talk about justification for Schiano and Peichel and the money, the other thing is that even if they wanted to fire Steve Peichel, it would be untenable because they owe him $20 million. Yes. I think that more so than what he's done in the past is the inhibitor here of that even being a conversation, right? If Coquese was owed $20 million, she would be back next season, no matter if she went 0-61 in the Big Ten. Right. So that is the part of the money that is also more important than what they've done 5 or 10 years ago. Right. So the money was not an excuse as far as firing her. $1.67 million in today is really nothing considering how much Rutgers has spent on coaching staffs in football and beyond. Right. And there's just been no proof of concept. They were not good offensively. They weren't good defensively. They were getting blown out by mediocre teams. There was nothing. There was no positive to bring her back, and the money you would save, the $800,000, that's how much money they would save if they brought her back this year. Yeah. The $800,000 you would save because you were going to fire her after, next year if you don't fire her this year, is not worth the reputational and just morale damage it would do. So now they have an opportunity. They have a major opportunity here if they make the right hire to revitalize, a once proud program.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the other part of this. And it was easy because the results have been so bad. And in fairness to Coquese Washington, were bad before she got here. Like at the end of C. Vivian's tenure, it fell apart in a major way. She inherited a mess. It's been a mess for a while. And I think people kind of not forgot, but it was easy to kind of say, well, that was in the past. Like what this was, what women's basketball was at Rutgers, right? Which was by far for decades the flag bearer for the athletic department, like a track record, a national championship, before the NCAA was the NCAA, Final Fours, win records. I mean, competing against Gino Auriemma. Like, it was easy to forget what this was. And yeah, I get it. The game's different. It's not going to be as easy, but there's history, there's tradition. And I go back to Keli Zinn's statement here. Like, we have invested in women's basketball in many ways. Like, she is saying, like, hey, look, this is not, we're not just going in this and with no capital, and we're just hoping for the best. Like, I think she's making a statement that, like, we already have invested. We're going to invest more in it. And we want to be in the game here. This is important to us.
You look at even just what they spent on coaches. I made a hot board of potential candidates, and we can go through that in a little bit here. But you're looking through these coaches' salaries, and it's not like Coquese Washington was bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten. She was making a little less than Kim Barnes-Arico was making at Michigan, and she has that place, really cooking. That'll be an interesting name we'll talk about later. And if you look at just what they spent even last year, they made $593,000 as a program, which we discussed as being way too low. They spent $7.5 million. They lost $7 million on that program. So they spend the money, they don't make it back. Even if you have to spend an extra $1.5 million to make it $9 million or $2.5 million to make it $10 million, you will make that money back up in season tickets. People will be willing to give the next coach a chance. And if you show even a little bit of improvement, the bar is on the floor, right? So if you show some fight there and some excitement, you're going to turn, you had the number in your story. They had 757 season tickets sold this season, which is nothing. That is absolutely nothing. If you double or triple that, you're not going to make, you're not going to close the gap that much, but you're going to show progress, make some more money, have some results, and, have a fourth program that you can lean on and hope that eventually will, not lose that much money.
Right. And remember, it might not be a revenue sport, but it is a high profile sport. Like these games are on national television, right? Like there was a moment this year, I think they were playing Maryland, and President Tate's there, and Keli Zinn's there, and the governor and his wife are there, and you're down by 40 points like at halftime, essentially, in this game. Like, it is just appearance wise, again, we don't have to make the case anymore about why they're making this change. Just to me, I was just surprised by that idea that, they were going to run it back. And I think maybe it was coming from Washington and the women's basketball circles. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not well sourced in the world of women's basketball. I just never got the sense that this was something that they could do, that they wanted to do, that they're willing to do. And Keli Zinn today, her first major decision was to make a change. Now now this is really the one that counts. The hire, you had what it was a very good board here of candidates. I love that you start with the names that you can put a picture of Kim Mulkey there, and everyone can go, wait a minute, are they going to hire Kim Mulkey? They're not going to hire Kim Mulkey. Come on, let's cross out some of these names. They're not hiring Courtney Banghart of North Carolina. I doubt Kim Barnes is going to come here or go from Michigan. I don't know.
I'm suspicious that you immediately said they're not going to hire the coach from your alma mater.
Right. I mean, yeah, because me, when it comes to Carolina women's basketball, there's no bigger booster. They just beat Duke at home, for crying out loud. She's not come up here.
Big W. To your point earlier, what was your point earlier that I wanted to? The dissemination of the information. Coquese Washington seemed very clearly confident that she would be back when she answered my question, more so than the token yes that she had to give the answer to. She seemed to legitimately believe she'd be back. And we, as you point out, we're not talking to women's basketball sources at all hours of the day, so we don't really have much in that realm. We got it more. We talked to more people on the Rutgers side of things, where the message seemed much more leaning towards she's going to get fired, right? I always sensed that she was going to get fired, and I was frankly shocked, surprised that there was even a conversation, a thought that this wouldn't happen. It's the most obvious decision in the world, and given that they made it 2 days after the season ended, that was always going to be the case.
Before you move on to candidates, I do want to point out, when you arrived to ask this question at this women's basketball game, they just blown like a 13-point, a big lead in the fourth quarter, right? Did you walk into the press conference? Were you like carrying a scythe and like a black robe? You must have been the Grim Reaper himself walking in there for your second, third women's basketball game this year?
First.
The first. I can only imagine. Here comes death himself to ask the question.
If Coquese Washington saw me on the street, I would not be offended if she walked to the other side, because the last 3 times I've talked to her were Big Ten Media Day last year, when I peppered her with questions about Keli McMiller and wearing Nikes when you're an Adidas school and NIL. And then this Media Day this last year, where I asked her about Keli McMiller playing for Penn State. And then I show up the last game of the year after they, like you said, blew 2 double-digit leads. And I asked her, so you think you're going to keep your job, or what's happening here? Yeah. I wouldn't blame Coquese Washington, who did have a statement about the move. I had it up here. I will put it up now and read it, just so we have the perspective of the fired coach on the situation. Here we go. Great radio. I'm thankful to Rutgers for the opportunity to lead the women's basketball program for the past 4 years. It has been a wonderful journey for me and my family, off the court, I imagine. I appreciate the faithful fans who came out and supported us night in, night out, and I am so grateful for the coaches who shared the sideline with me. When one door closes, another one opens, pouring out blessings. The next chapter awaits. I will be interested to see where she goes from here. I cannot imagine that after, flaming out at Rutgers and Penn State, that she'll have another opportunity in the Big Ten, but there are a lot of jobs out there.
Right.
Now, as for who will come to Rutgers.
Here we go. So the good stuff.
I called the first section Hail Mulkey as kind of a play on Hail Mary. I hope people got the reference. Otherwise, it would be almost though I'm worshiping Kim Mulkey as a cult figure, which in some places she might be. But anyway.
Is that what they yell at LSU games? Hail Mulkey! That's very funny.
It'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So let's start with the second person of that 2-person list. Dawn Staley. I'm going to have her on every.
You had Dawn Staley on that list? I didn't even see that. I must have just blacked out for a minute. What?
So Dawn Staley and Kim Mulkey are to Rutgers women's basketball what Brad Stevens is to Indiana men's basketball. Insofar as when the job opens, that is the first name you hear, and you say, you got to call him. You got to make him say no. And then you call him, and within 5 seconds, he says, yeah, no, I'm okay. So Dawn Staley, she's from Philly. She maybe is bored after building South Carolina into a powerhouse, winning national championships in South Carolina. That's boring. How about coming to Rutgers, where, look, C. Vivian Stringer is a revered coach. Her legacy is meaningful to women's basketball, and particularly Black coaches, Black players. And Dawn Staley is an icon. So if you are Rutgers, that is the one string you pull and say, I know we can't pay you 1/10 of your salary, but I mean, legacy. Anyway, when Dawn Staley says no, you call Kim Mulkey. Now, I'm going to give you, if you are a Rutgers fan who really wants Kim Mulkey to come here, I'm going to give you the one thing to hang on. Her buyout. Do you know what her buyout is?
No, why would I know that?
$2 million, which is not, it's not nothing, but it's not as high as you think, right?
Right. Yes. This is also a bad cultural fit. Like Dawn Staley would be, obviously, the absolute perfect person for culture, university, part of the country. I mean, Kim Mulkey, that's kind of a fish out of water thing. I think it's for a lot of reasons.
I agree. Also, when you can account for how little her buyout is, you have to remember that she's making $3 million starting from next year, and her contract is through 2033. So would she give up $15 million or so to come to Rutgers, where she would make, at best, half of her current salary? Yeah. Doesn't make sense in many ways. I will say, though, I want you to make the same promise I'm about to make. Mm-hmm. If Kim Mulkey is the head women's basketball coach at Rutgers next year, I will show up in this, maybe I will wear this outfit.
Wait, you're going too fast for if you have to watch this on YouTube, go to the 14-minute point on YouTube. If you're not watching this, if you're listening to this on because he's putting up some photos of what he's going to wear. I'm excited about this.
So these are the 4 I have. This is a nice little sweater.
Okay. I like the hard outfits. This one's pink, a hot pink, like a fuchsia, I dare say, with black hearts on it. I like that's nice. Yep.
This is a mid-February Valentine's Day or the week before, the week after outfit. This is a nice little, I don't know, Halloween maybe.
Yeah, the old school Tiger, LSU Tiger. That's like a 1959 Tiger. I like it. Yep.
You just replace that with the Rutgers Chanticleer. A little shout out back to the 1950s. And this will be my everyday outfit. I will wear this, I promise you, to every Rutgers women's, men's basketball games and football. I will ask Greg Schiano a pointed question while wearing that in the front row of the SHI Stadium press box. I promise you.
I will say this, and it's interesting. I do wonder this, and I'm serious when I ask this. Like, if you could offer Dawn Staley to double her salary, I do not know what she's making in South Carolina. I assume 3. If Kim Mulkey's making 3, she's probably making 3. If you could give her
the highest paid coach in women's college basketball, she is being paid on average $4 million a year.
It'd be hard to double. But if you could give her a Greg Schiano contract, a Steve Peichel, because Steve Peichel makes less than that, give her a big bunch of money, what would it be worth to the university if all of a sudden Rutgers was a championship level, Final Four level program in women's college basketball on TV, the exposure of winning there? I wonder. I wonder if it would be worth the investment. I don't know. I don't know
if it would be worth the investment. But if you look at like recent examples of high-level women's basketball, Caitlin Clark took over the sports world. Yes. Caitlin Clark is a unique case for many reasons. Generational player, obviously, and there are other factors.
If you could pay her $6 million, that'd be a great idea. Yes.
Correct. But my point being, women's basketball is no longer this niche sport that has a sizable audience, but this is a national sport that is growing. So in this La La Land scenario where Rutgers gets one of the best coaches in the history of the sport and wins a national championship within 5 years, it would be massively impactful, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, when we're done talking about La La Land and Pretend World and all this stuff, let's get to what I think is...
Well, wait, before you go leave La La Land, let's just remember one thing about it. Like, William Tate sat in La La Land. Like, Keli Zinn, that came from it. I mean, I will say one thing. Like, this is a guy who was a unabashed women's basketball supporter. His wife, they were huge. Like, the president of Rutgers has Angel Reese on his cell phone. Like, they're friends. Like this. So I'm not going to dismiss all of this entirely. I do think that this is someone who understands the value of that. Like, you don't have to talk him into like this, right? This is someone who saw it. So I just wanted to say that, like, if you want to make a case for the Hail Mary, if you want to talk about this in crazy terms, if you want to think like swing for the fences, there's another reason. Okay.
Yes. If you want to dream, you can find a couple of straws to pull to, maybe it'll happen. But okay, sorry to crush all of your dreams. It's not going to happen.
Back to reality.
As I said, I will wear this. I promise you. I will find this outfit in a men's large. I will wear this to the rack. I swear to God.
The heels too?
I will wear the heels, everything. Okay. I will make the same exact face she's making. I'll get in the stands. I will buy courtside seats and get in this stance at the rack for every game of the year. I will buy season tickets.
Okay. Worth it to me.
It would be worth it to a lot of people at Rutgers. I'm sure Keli could pass around the hat. She could pass around the hat at the Rodkin and get a decent amount of money.
Got a Zelle that I can send the money to. All right.
Now, let's go to who I believe is the best, highest level option in the realistic candidates, the upper 99th percentile, like best case scenario home run hire. Kim Barnes-Arico. I think that to me is the home run grand slam of all home runs. What would you say is the percentage chance that Rutgers could even make that remotely possible?
So you're telling me that you're going to hire the Michigan coach to a lateral move for about the same money at a team that went 9-20 and 1-17. I think the chances are pretty low. Like, I think they're less than 10%. I just don't understand. And I get it. Like, oh, she's from the area, but I mean, it's not like she just, people move. Like, she can fly here when she wants to visit. Like, I love bagels and pizza too, but I mean, Ann Arbor's not a bad place to live. It's not like if you told me she was in Stillwater, I'd be like, oh, all right, maybe she wants to come back to Jersey. There's just a guy. It just doesn't make any sense for her. I don't understand.
A straight shot at our friend Ryan Novozinski, who went to Oklahoma State, a proud alum. You just take a random shot. It was
unintentional. It was like the first one that came to mind. I could have gone with, Stark. Where's Mississippi State? The other one was going to go.
Stark Vegas.
Vegas.
I understand exactly. That's why I think this is the least likely of what I call the realistic. Now,
Yeah.
to compare it to LSU once again, this is in some regards similar to what happened with Kim Mulkey going from Baylor to LSU. Obviously, she never won a national championship at Michigan. This is all lower level, and Rutgers is not LSU. But
Right.
she's from New Jersey. She's established herself at a different program. It would be a shock if this happens, but it was a shock when Kim Mulkey went from Baylor to LSU, and it worked out pretty well for her.
Right.
So
you're going to have to pay her a lot more money than she's making. And yeah, I think that's it. That's
she's only making $900,000.
Oh, she's not.
Yes. She's making less than $1 million. Correct.
Wow. Okay. Holy cow. I'm
Her
surprised.
salary. That's why I'm saying Coquese Washington was getting good money. There was a lot of resources in that program.
All she has to do is get on a plane and come here for an interview, and she'll double her salary back there. That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So,
right.
Man, I fire your agent there. First thing I'll say when she gets to the press conference.
I just think if you want to tug at her heartstrings, she coached here before in high school, in college. She got engaged at the Fairleigh Dickinson campus. Right. She turned St. John's from a complete afterthought into a legit Big East.
And that's when you should have hired her. You could have hired her then. And I remember that she was she was on the radar here, and it was negotiations with C. Vivian Stringer to continue. It would have been better for the program had the change been made there. It was impossible. I understand why, but that was the time to do it. Now she has moved to a higher level.
Hindsight is 2020. At that point, this was 2012. Vivian Stringer was 5 years removed from a national championship appearance. I think 4 years from an Elite Eight.
Yep.
I hear your point, but yes, the ship has probably sailed there, which is why the next candidate on this list of realistic candidates is on the other end of the spectrum, where Kim Barnes-Arigo was probably 15 years ago. Carly Dudanis, Carly Thibault
Dudanis, correct.
I'm not sure which one is her maiden name, which one is her married name, so I wanted to include both. But anyway, she is a star, rising star at Fairfield, has that place an absolute wagon. She is a hot coaching commodity, turned down Wisconsin last year, didn't even turn down Wisconsin. She didn't even interview for the job.
That's wild.
Turned down a couple of other SEC jobs from what I understand. So she's going to have her pick. Can Rutgers convince her that this is the right spot to make a jump in her career? I don't know. I think a lot of the pitches that Rutgers is going to make is like our historical success. Like Rutgers has been successful historically. You can be the one that then makes them successful again, because I'm not sure how much more they have to pitch.
Well, I think I disagree. Like, I think now you have history, you have facilities. I think they actually have. I mean, I don't know what other places. This is like UConn obviously has great facilities. Like women's basketball has a first class practice facility. I would be interested to know what the plan is for playing players. Like, how much is Keli Zinn planning to put into the coffers of that? So that's to me the biggest question now. Even in women's basketball, it's not the same as men's basketball, where it is the entire game. But my understanding is it's become, for the high level teams, the game. So I think that's good. That's going to be the big question. If you're a Carly Thibault Dudanis, I have her phonetic spelling in the script. That's good preparation by me. But yeah, to your point, I think if you have Fairfield in the top 25, you're going to get you're going to get more offers. She's going to be able to make a jump to a higher level, like already rolling kind of place. I don't know which one. I don't know what job that's going to be. I think there's going to be a lot of openings though, from what I understand. She also has a really up tempo 3-pointer, analytic friendly style. From what she's playing the game. So people who want to nerd out, our Discord's going to love Carly Thibault Dudanis. You of all people, you will love it. You'll love it when you ask questions about your philosophy for how to run an offense. Someone's going to answer it. It's going to be great. But I would say that it's going to take Keli Zinn's best pitch to get her.
Yes. So a couple of things. Fairfield does invest a decent amount in basketball. They have a new arena for men's and women's, and they pour some money in there. So it's not like she's dying to leave a ship that she's worried about will sink. She could stay at Fairfield as long as she wants and keep that place jumping.
What is she making at Fairfield though?
Let me see if I have it in the story. I don't know if I looked it up, but a couple of things. One, Rutgers will go after her. I think she will be towards the top of the list. I think they're going to take a big swing at her.
I agree totally.
I think it'd be malpractice if you did.
Yep.
Whether or not they land the swing or not, I don't know, but they will take the swing. And this is just pure speculation, came to my mind immediately as we were talking about this, her waiting out jobs. Fairfield's in Connecticut. Gino Auriemma won't last forever. Is she going to wait it out? And would she be a candidate for UConn if she timed it right?
Yeah, absolutely. But how long? I mean, you can't wait for how old is Gino? Is Gino 70? Gino is 71. Yeah, it's not going to last forever, but it's not like he doesn't look like a guy who's going to retire soon. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a tough one. She could also, I mean, it's not, she'd also coach here and make that jump. So it's not like, I don't know that UConn has to hire the Fairfield coach. I think UConn will hire anybody it wants. So.
Right. But I'm just saying, local coach, right. Rising star, I mean, you're probably right. UConn is a place where if Gino retired tomorrow, Dawn Staley would be a realistic candidate there, right? Where they wouldn't be putting her in the Hale Mulkey category.
Right. Yeah, everyone's realistic.
She's 34 years old. Is she has a long time ahead of her.
Wow.
And then the last one,
I've long ago conceded the coaches are going to be younger than me. Soon they're going to be younger than you, and then we're in bad shape.
Don't do that to me.
34?
Don't do that to me.
Ooh, man.
And the last one in this category of home run hires I have is Courtney Banghart from your alma mater, North Carolina, longtime coach at Princeton. She makes $1 million. But her buyout is exactly the same as Kim Mulkey, $200,000. She's being very successful in Chapel Hill. I don't see why she would entertain. But
let's go to the realistic candidates. Who do you got there?
So my realistic targets are Megan Duffy at Virginia Tech. She was at Marquette, Miami of Ohio. Now she's at Virginia Tech. Success at every stop. She makes $825, which is roughly what Coquese made. So they wouldn't have to make a huge jump in that. She's not an outstanding coach, but she is an above average coach. She's done it at multiple stops, and she doesn't seem like someone who's putting down her roots for long term. Mm-hmm. The better candidate I have two other candidates in that range that I like better. Megan Griffith at Columbia. She's been in the Ivy League her entire career, an assistant at Princeton, and is coaching at Columbia, her alma mater where she played. She's 40 years old. Her contract is up in 2 years, 27, 28. She's been doing very well at Columbia. She's local. Would make sense. Now the question is, again, she's only been at the Ivy League. Can she do it in the Big Ten? And then Tammy Reese at Rhode Island. Broke through this year. Will make the NCAA tournament for the first time. She won an A-10 title years ago, but is going to she finished with a share this year and will try to win the tournament. Yes. She'll be a hot commodity.
She's a very realistic candidate. I think she would take the job. She was in the running 4 years ago when Coquese got the job. So
that to me is a name that you kind of hold on the back burner. Like, if you strike out on your first 3 or 4 candidates and you get lower in the list, she might be towards the top of the lower end, if that makes sense.
Right. I'm going to throw out 3 more names to you, or 3 more ideas to you. And I would be, again, this is from living in New Jersey and seeing people coach. I think Tony Bozzella is an excellent basketball coach who is doing things at Seton Hall, keeping them relevant at a time when it's just, basically impossible. So if you were just hiring, let's hire a good coach who has a proven track record. I understand everything why, it's probably going to be a female hire. He's 60 years old. He's been there he hasn't been in this really like there's a million reasons. What on the other side of this, I'm just telling you, like, get him in a room for 20 minutes and talk to him. That would be I would do that if I would make that connection if I were Keli Zinn, based on his track record, based on being in the state, a popular figure, a million reasons. I think it's a conversation to have. I'm not saying he's going to get the job, but you should talk to him. Number one. Another one, I think you have to look at LSU, and I don't know who it would be, but again, because Tate's going to be involved in this, I think that it would be foolish not to think they're going to make contact with people at LSU. Look at Kim Mulkey's staff down there. I think the main recruiter is a man. Again, like I don't know if that's a deal breaker for Keli Zinn or not. But I think that it's I would be surprised if there's not some names that emerge from down there. And the other one is like I'm interested to know, like if she's got something in mind beyond what we like. Here's the standard way the search works, right? We look at the hot coaches, the teams in the top 25. It's like everyone comes up with the same list. Does Keli Zinn have an idea that we're not thinking of? Like, when we're going to have her on the podcast, we think this week, we'll ask her that question. Like, is there an outside the box? Is there a WNBA figure? Is there somebody that she is thinking about that is beyond what we know here. And I'm curious about that because like we are entering a phase in college sports where like, the traditional hires might not be the way to go. If it's money, if it's building a program in a different way, if it's buzz, if it's attention. I'm just saying like this would be an opportunity for her to say, yeah, that's the way you used to do it. Yeah, I think we should do it this way. So just throwing that out there.
Maybe a WNBA coach or executive or former college coach working in those ranks. It's
a high-profile player with somebody who's been in the league a long time with a trusted assistant. Like there's like I'm just saying that it doesn't have necessarily what we think might not be what we get. That's what I'm trying to.
Right. This strikes me as somewhat of the outside the box idea they had with the AD hire that ended up going with Keli Zinn, a more traditional hire.
Bringing it, yeah, exactly.
I do think that if I had to put the odds on here, the odds on favorite would be a coach that's currently coaching college basketball, probably a sitting head coach. This is her first hire. And while obviously it's not the most high profile job, it's high profile enough that you got to nail this, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's one thing you go from, Teresa Grants was great here for a long time. C. Vivian Stringer was great here for a long time until the end. And then you have a bump in the road with Coquese Washington. You got to bring it back up. Yes. You can't afford to let this program keep sagging lower and lower to the point where nobody remembers the good days, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the LSU thing, I think the most logical would be Daphne Mitchell, who was with Kim Mulkey at Baylor and brought over to LSU. She's been with her for 11 years. She coaches the post players, had a big role in developing Angel Reese, who obviously was a major reason for them winning a national championship. I think that they'll maybe kick the tires with someone at LSU, given how close they are to that program. Chris Daly, another member of the honorary Hot Board Hall of Fame. She will be on every Hot Board till the rest of the time. I think the window for her to leave UConn and come to Rutgers has passed about 10 to 15 years ago.
Right.
She'll probably be with Gino until he retires and they'll both retire, but got to throw her name out. And if you want to internally promote, Shannon LaBeouf, longtime senior associate head coach at UCLA, came to Rutgers as an associate head coach this year. Mm-hmm. She has been in the wings for a long time at a successful program. You could do worse. I don't think it's likely, but you could do worse.
Right.
But again, the ultimate question here will be, A, how much money are they going to be willing to spend on a coach, right? Are they going to break the $1 million barrier? That is a major question. B, how much money will they have to work in NIL? I am not familiar with what it would take to be successful in women's college basketball as I am with football or basketball, or men's basketball. But will they be in a range that is competitive? Mm-hmm. That will be a big thing. And how quickly can they get this done? The portal opens after the national championship game. So in April, you have about a month until the portal opens.
Right.
But as we know, a lot of the activity is happening now. The season's over for a lot of teams, including Rutgers. It'll be over for a lot more teams in the coming week. How soon can you start getting the gear? And how do you find the balance between hiring someone, somewhat soon versus not rushing through the process? It's going to be a fascinating search.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And it's a good thing that they're making this direction. I think a lot of people who follow women's basketball are excited and should be. All right. Do you want to dive into some little men's hoop and football? The stuff we usually talk about on the show? Let's do it. You were down in College Park, Maryland, beautiful Maryland campus, empty arena program in worse shape than Rutgers, and a good road win. I'm just going to say this because I understand what happened. I watched the game, or I shouldn't say that. Like I was watching the game, and then I turned away for like a minute, and I turned back in. I'm like, wait, like, is this the same game? How is Maryland win? Like, Maryland's up by 1. I'm like, what happened? So a 19-point lead blown, a 1-point Maryland lead. Let's focus on the good news here. Rutgers won a game on the road. It had to win. Kind of took itself out for the most part of the dreaded Tuesday at the Big Ten tournament. I think overall, anytime you win on the road in the Big Ten, let's say good job.
If you look at the final score, Rutgers, as a 4.5-point underdog, won a game outright by 4 on the road.
There you go.
If you look at the final score and you didn't watch the game at all, you think, wow, great result for Rutgers. If you watch that game, you think, oh my God, what the hell is happening right here? Because the first half, they got out to a huge lead by playing good defense and forcing a ton of turnovers and turning those turnovers into points. They weren't exactly lighting it up offensively. They were taking great shots which I did ask Steve Peichel about after the game. I tried to throw him a softball because I ask him every game about all their mid-range jumpers. They finally have a game where they shoot a ton of threes, a ton of shots at the rim. I was hoping he would hit it out of the park and just kill me for that.
Yeah.
But he took the high road, I guess. Anyway, it's not that they were playing particularly well offensively. It's that they were playing great defensively, and that led to baskets on the other end. And it's weird to say, but they were only up 19. They felt like they were winning. They were dominating by a lot more.
I thought Maryland was on the take for a minute. I was like texting you, "Are we sure? What's like? Is the FBI going to watch this game and look at some of these passes?" It was like, what are they doing? I mean, it was just incredible. It was Michael Davis, but suddenly became like, the greatest defensive guard in the world, and every pass just handed to him. Anyway, it was wild.
He looked like the greatest cornerback of all time, pick-sixing every other possession. But you thought, okay, they're up 19 after forcing 14 turnovers and getting 14 points off turnovers. This isn't sustainable. And sure enough, Maryland comes out with some pressure. Rutgers can't really score, is turning the ball over themselves. Maryland is hitting shots. They get a flagrant foul, which Emmanuel Bole gets punished for being an action figure, and just kind of bumps the guy, and the guy goes flopping, and they look at Emmanuel and think, okay, this guy is enormous. Of course he shoved the guy. It is amazing because Solomon Washington is a big guy in and of himself, and then he stands next to Emmanuel Bole, and he looks like meat. And I'm like, okay.
It is amazing. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Anyway, the things kind of snowballed. Credit to Rutgers. They blew a 20-point lead. A 20-point. That is, and it's not like they blew a 20-point lead in 25 minutes over a small course. They blew a 20-point lead in 9 minutes.
They blew it too quickly. Maryland should have string it out. That's what happened.
Right. So Maryland takes its first lead and only lead with 11:26 left. Then these teams go 4 minutes without scoring. Both teams 4 minutes.
Rough. Yeah, it was rough. That's when I tuned back in and questioned why I was doing it. Yeah.
And then Rutgers takes the lead back, and Maryland threatens to turn it back around, but Rutgers hangs on because, and Steve Peichel made a good point about this, free throws. They hit 9 of the last 10 free throws. The last miss, according to Steve Peichel, was an intentional miss, so you run out the clock. Very impressive. It is amazing that the 1 year they are finally, the 2 years, they're finally good at free throws. It doesn't really matter because
83%, 10 of 10 for Tariq Francis. I mean, he's why they're good at free throws. Let's be honest. And it's great. And Emmanuel Bole had 3 attempts, missed 2 of them. So even with that, you're still. Michael Davis had 2 big ones late. Give him credit. He had his best game in a while. 31 minutes, 12 points, 4 or 6 shooting, 6 rebounds. 3 steals. So. Give him credit. He's a guy we've kind of forgotten about, or at least, if you were building a roster for next year, I think a lot of people would be happy. Would be like, you can leave. But, he had a good game. Francis had a good game. I think we're Lino Mark, okay, he only played 17 minutes. I'm surprised. I thought he played more than that. Kadeem Powers was out there for 30. I'm very surprised by that. Didn't think he was playing particularly well. But overall, the backcourt, what did you think?
Yeah, Lino Mark started off well, hit a 3 on his first shot, and then things kind of cratered from there. Did try to get to the rim, but Maryland kind of snuffed that out for the most part. I thought Darren Buchanan, who also hit 2 big free throws down the stretch, he had another great game. Took a unselfish role of playing a small ball 5 and got to the rim. Wasn't particularly efficient, but did what he had to do. Was solid defensively and continues to show some leadership there. So I thought he had one of his better games near his home city of Washington, D.C. Had some family there. I thought it was a positive game for multiple Rutgers players. Rough game for Harun Zerno, 0-4 from the field, just struggling a little bit. Rough game for the centers. I mean, Emmanuel Bole had 1 rebound. Bryce George had 1 rebound. Yeah. How does that happen? How does JaMychal Davis
50 to 26 on rebounding? My goodness. Yeah.
And I asked Steve Peichel about that, and he said that a lot of that was because of the turnovers they forced, but Maryland took 36 shots and Rutgers took 35 shots. It's not like, the shot discrepancy was that wild. I mean, Maryland was rebounding. They rebounded 44% of their missed shots. 1 out of every 2 missed shots, basically, they were getting their own rebound. It's insane.
So is there, in your mind, the big picture, is there something to be said for being the best team in the bottom third of the Big Ten? I think we all thought that they were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. I don't think you can make that case anymore, considering they've beaten 4 teams below them and one of them twice. We're grasping at straws here. I get it that your season goal is not, we're not going to play on Tuesday. Yay! All right, no Tuesday for us. Yes. Later flight to Indianapolis. Hooray. I get it. That's not what you want. But is there something to be said for it?
Well, okay. So for two things. One, it does show that there's some level of caring and effort, right? You don't win those games by accident. When you're Rutgers, you don't win any games by accident. You win games because you try hard, right? So the effort is there. For people who really care about whether the effort is there, the effort is there.
Absolutely.
Now, if you look at the strength of schedule between the bottom 5 teams in the Big Ten, let's go. And this is according to Bart Torvik, conference strength of schedule. Okay. Washington, 12th. Northwestern, 2nd. Oregon, 3rd. Maryland, 5th. Penn State, the hardest strength of schedule in the Big Ten. Rutgers, 14th. So some of that is scheduling. Rutgers played Maryland and Penn State home and away. It hosted Oregon, did not go up to the West Coast there, and it hosted Northwestern.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the games, it played the bad teams. It played them at home. And they won in overtime. Right. Obviously, there's some home court advantage there. Listen, all of this is worth what it's worth.
Yeah. Right.
But look, I guess, look, if you want to have a feather in your cap, if you want to point to something positive from the season, you could say that Rutgers is, what is it? They're now 5-0 against the bottom 4 teams, and they're 0-13 against any team above them in the standings.
Right. Which is who they're playing next. A team about 1.5 miles above them in the standings on the road. This is going to be the next. I would like to see this translate into a good effort against a good team. Michigan State obviously is a very good team, so it's a little different. I understand that. But we've seen, there are upsets in the Big Ten. Maryland beat Iowa. I guess it's not the same level of upset, but it happens.
Penn State also beat Iowa. So maybe this is just the Iowa
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. They do happen. They just didn't happen this year for Rutgers, right? That people will point to the Michigan State game, but they didn't win it. They built a lead. They didn't win the game. So shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now they'll have one opportunity to have an upset against Michigan State at the Breslin Center, where they have never won. Mm-hmm. Much better Rutgers teams have lost to much worse Michigan State teams at the Breslin Center. I would be pretty shocked. That brings you to Sunday. If you beat Penn State, you will have the 14th place. You will get the first round bye in the Big Ten tournament. It is possible.
Still on the table? I thought it was pretty much already,
Well, there are certain scenarios that could happen where Northwestern, which is 5-13, if they beat Purdue or Minnesota, and Rutgers loses their game to Penn State, then they could surpass Rutgers.
Gotcha.
Because Rutgers has the tiebreaker, but Northwestern has 5 wins, so does Rutgers. That's the only one that could beat them. So I think the number this morning on CBB Analytics or on Matt Hackman, one of those two, was 74%.
Oh, wow.
That sounds about right. Again, the only scenario is Minnesota wins one of its last 2 or both of its last 2, and Rutgers doesn't win any of their last 2.
Yep. Okay.
Does it matter? It matters for my travel. I'm currently scheduled to land on Tuesday, so I'll have a whole day to kill.
You're going?
I'm going to be at the Big Ten tournament. I go every year.
Okay.
The things I do for this to cover this basketball team.
Good stuff. All right. I wasn't sure we're still traveling. Good to hear. Glad to hear it. Good. We should go on the road. When I'm by we, I mean you. That's good. All right. Anything else on basketball before we jump into football?
No, I have nothing really to add other than the Penn State game should be interesting. Last home game, you mentioned it, like the Maryland thing, like that place was obviously it's probably twice the capacity of the RAC, but the place was empty. Yeah. The wall where the students sit,
just bad.
The wall where the students sit, where they unfurl the flag at like the under 12 timeout of the second half. I was wondering if there'd be enough people there to unfurl the flag, or if they would just kind of throw it down to the court and hope someone caught it. It was bad. And it's not the first road game Rutgers has been to where there's no fans. Credit to Rutgers fans. They've been through a lot of lean years and they keep showing up. And I think it'll be interesting to see, if people are going to show up for the last game to clinch that first round Big Ten bye.
All right. We'll see you there at the RAC. Football. We had some football news, which is interesting this time of year, certainly. Sean Allison, linebacker, who thrived at Drake last year, according to what you wrote, under incoming rush coach Joe Woodley joining the program. I think that this was the one player that they were, if you were going to get someone out of the portal from all of the dominoes falling with the coaching situations and the defensive staff coming from essentially the FCS level and all these programs, 6 foot, 235 from Illinois, had a really good year. Do you pencil him in? I guess I know that's always been the sort of the Rutgers way with the football way. If you're going to bring a guy in, he's going to be a starter. Do you pencil him in as a starter, and will he be an impact starter?
No, I do not pencil him in as a starter. I think he would be much closer to a, like a 10 to 15 snap kind of guy, a rotational linebacker, if he plays at all at linebacker. I mean, the guy thrived at Drake at the FCS level. He's very small. There's a reason he's at FCS, right? It's one thing to be a great FCS player, especially at a position like linebacker that's very physical, and to do so in the Big Ten. So I think if he was a starter, it'd probably be a bad sign for the young players in that room and where the older players are. I could see him playing some. I just don't think he'll be have a huge impact. Where I think he might have a big impact to special teams, right? And that's a position where you saw where 1, 2, 3 injuries can devastate that group, and you're suddenly giving off kickoff return touchdowns to Iowa to start the game. So he can make an impact there. And look, he is a good security valve in that if you do for some reason have a rash of injuries at linebacker, he's a guy that you feel comfortable throwing in there as far as knowing where to be, what to do, what the coaches expect of him. Travis Johansson, so he had Joe Woodley coach him for a year. So they have a perspective of what it's like to coach him. And Travis Johansson played against him in the FCS playoffs. So the defensive coordinator has experience, watching him on tape. So,
right. Okay.
They wouldn't have brought him over if they didn't feel comfortable with what they saw. It's a low risk, high reward ad.
Right. So this is one of the positions that there's been enough change in it that I'm not confused, but I certainly don't see it as clearly as some other positions. I know they brought in the Rice linebacker, Ty Morris. So you bring in Allison. You got, who else on this? Who from the new guys are going to play then? Because I know you got Kamar Archie, you got DJ McClary. Give me some names here of people that you might see in this rotation. Like what is the starting linebacker rotation at this point?
So there are groups here, right? There's the returning starters. There's Moses Walker and Abram Wright, both of who are coming back from season-ending injuries. Moses Walker looked like it was his knee. I think Abram Wright
serious injuries, and he's had a couple. Moses Walker at this point, so
correct. And Abram Wright, I could be wrong here. I'm recollecting off the top of my head. I don't think he had a serious season-ending injury, but he dealt with injuries the whole year, and he had a season-ending injury last year, meaning 2024. So he's been two veteran starters who have dealt with long-term injuries during their career. There's those two young guys you mentioned, DJ McClary and Kamar Archie, guys they feel like have a lot of potential and guys that they didn't want to completely cover by adding 2 or 3 guys from the portal and giving them no space to develop, right? You might want them to take the field for a few snaps every game, and maybe they're not finished products quite yet, but they're physically capable enough to compete. And then you have Ty Morris, who probably is going to be a starter, right? You don't bring a guy in like that for depth, though it's obviously no surefire thing, and he's a great insurance plan if you do keep having injury issues. And then you have Sean Allison as more quality depth. And then you have a bunch of other young guys in the room that you never know when these guys can develop and become a starter with that expectation.
Right. Yeah. At least there's some room that if there are injuries, and there have been every year. I mean, every year we've covered this team it just seems like every year there's the linebacker injury. Some of them more serious than others. Obviously, Mo Touré in the preseason, there's been a bunch. I mean, Tyree Powell on one leg half the year. Things have happened, and the drop off has been bad at that position. You hope at this point that it won't be. I guess if bad stuff happens again, and we don't know. Like honestly, it's hard to know what we're going to see here from Scarlett Johansson, as far as what the system is going to look like. How important linebackers are. There are some unknowns as well.
I would still expect them to play 2 linebackers as they've done under Greg, as much as I was going to call him Scarlett Johansson. You're killing me. As much as Travis Johansson wants to implement his own footprint, I do think this will largely look similar to what Greg runs, the 4-2-5 or whatever, just with little tweaks. But I would anticipate the linebackers play a big role as they do every year, and they desperately need them to play better than last year. Dario Jabomi took a step back last year. Moses Walker got hurt, obviously. Abram Wright has been banged up. So they haven't had, probably since 23, the last time they had a really good year, they haven't had a solid linebacker core. Obviously, when you had Tareem Powell at full strength and Moses Touré, wreaking havoc back there.
Right, exactly. All right, what else you want to tell you? I don't think we have any questions. If we did, we have kind of addressed them. I like this one. This is a good one. If the choice is between paying Steve Pico's buyout or Kim Mulkey's, what is the better investment? I think that means hiring Kim Mulkey or paying Steve Pikiell's buyout. That's interesting.
What is the better investment?
Yeah, Kim Mulkey, of course.
I mean,
Keep
Kim
Steve
Mulkey, because
Pikiell.
it's additive, right?
It's additive. Yeah, exactly.
You're paying a lot of money to add one of the greatest coaches of all time versus spending a lot of money to get rid of a coach. Like, and then you spend more, you spend Kim Mulkey money to add another coach.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm with you there.
I understand the sentiment, but I think if you had, let's say the cost was exactly the same and you were gifted that lump sum by some miracle of God and you had to pick one avenue to go into, I think very clearly you add Kim Mulkey.
Right. All right. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Baseball, a bit of a rough weekend, but they were supposed to have their home opener Tuesday. That has been canceled because of the weather. They're going to have their home opener instead this weekend for Bryant, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe an interesting first pitch person on Saturday. I don't know if I'm at liberty to reveal, but maybe worthwhile going there on Saturday. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. Otherwise,
look at you teasing. What are you, a message board now? I can't reveal it, but I've got some information. I love it. What is this? Come on.
It's going to be Keli Zinn. I think Keli Zinn is going to throw out the first pitch. I'm sure they'll announce it. Yes, I didn't mean to imply that, like, Mariano Rivera was showing up to the baseball.
Well, the way you said it, I was like, whoa. Okay, that's nice. Good. See if she goes up to climb to the top of the mound. That's a question we can ask her that. So this is good. This is actually, we should talk about this for a minute before we sign off. We think we're gonna have Keli Zinn on the podcast this week. I don't know if the news today is going to change that. She might be very busy, but the hope is that we're going to have her on for the first time. And I'm looking forward to that. Like, I think there's a lot of topics here to discuss with her about her philosophy with both of the basketball programs, about investing in certain sports versus other, using your resources wisely. What is the one thing you're hoping to talk to her about most of all?
Well, I don't want to tip my hand, so I will not answer that trick question from you, tricky Politi.
Yes, I'm working for the university now.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked to pull a Tom Lucci, just to throw out the block R on your chest. What I will say is, if people are curious and have particular questions themselves, throw them in the comments, throw them in our Discord, throw them in our Twitter replies, put them in a piece of paper, print it out, and put it on the front door of the Heldridge Hotel, the best hotel in downtown New Brunswick and the greatest sponsor in the Rutgers sports universe. In all seriousness, I'm looking forward to hearing from her because there's a lot of topics to talk about that have happened over the last couple of months. And maybe more interesting, what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 months that will determine the trajectory of the 26-27 season on the hardwood.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll sign off there. We'll be back on Wednesday, hopefully with Keli Zinn, and talk some more Rutgers sports. Been an interesting week already, and it's only Monday. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant, sponsored by the Heldridge Hotel. Head to nj.com/Rutgers for more Scarlet Knight content.